Welcome to another conversation on the All About You podcast. My name is Sheila, and today my guest is Jamie Vaughn. Jamie is a breast cancer survivor and has her own very successful podcast, Test Those Breasts. Jamie, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you, Sheila. It's so great to get to connect with you today. Thank you for having me on.
Well, you're very, very welcome. And we have a lot to cover in this podcast because you are a breast cancer survivor and you've gone on to create your own podcast, Test Those Breasts, where you talk to medical professionals, getting the answers and talking to other women who are going through this. So let's crack on with this then, Jamie. Are you happy to share your own story about having breast cancer?
Absolutely. That's pretty much what I do all the time now. So I'm used to talking about it, and I think it's really important to talk about it to spread awareness, which is one of the reasons I started the podcast. I'm 56 years old now, and I'm almost 2 years out from my diagnosis, which was June 11, 2022 at 3:30 in the afternoon, to be exact, in the United States and on the West Coast. I'll never forget that day. I had been getting my mammograms since I was in my 40s, and I was told probably about 10 years ago, maybe, that I had dense breast tissue. I wasn't quite sure exactly what that meant, but I knew enough that it took a little bit more to see what was inside my breast. So, because when you have dense breast tissue, it's pretty clouded in there. It's like finding a snowflake in a snowstorm. And most women have dense breast tissue, the younger women, and then, even throughout my age. And then as we grow older, they become less dense. So I actually was always told to get diagnostics, mammograms, and an ultrasound, which is what I did. And in the last 10 years, they had found two lumps, and I had had them biopsied, and they were benign. But I have gone through this kind of like waiting period of finding out what the lump had said, if it was cancerous or not. And I was in my last year of teaching. I had been working for the school district here in Reno, Nevada for about 20 years. And I was so excited to retire. And in hindsight, the spring before I was diagnosed, I felt a lump. I know I felt a lump. Now, I want to clarify something. I've always listened to my body, Sheila. I've always, if something was wrong, I always called the doctor. I'm very in tune with my body. And in hindsight, I also had felt sensations in my breast, like burning sensations or zingers. Okay. And I would be driving along and I would feel it and I would be like, oh, what was that? But then it would stop and then I would just go about my day. And it was about a couple of days before my retirement party. I would say it was like June 2nd. I was sitting out front with my husband and we were having a beer, and it was after work one day. And I had gotten this little ping on my phone that says, hey, you need to get your mammogram. And I'm always really good at getting my mammogram every single year, like clockwork. I mean, it's just one of those things that I just do. The only time I did not get it on the same month that I usually get it was during COVID. And so it had been pushed off to like June, because I always got it in October. And so I had gotten a ping on my phone, and I picked up the phone and called and made my appointment to get my mammogram. And they ask you all the time, do you feel anything? Have you felt anything abnormal? And I said, no, because in my mind, I was going to be getting my mammogram in like 3 weeks. So I was like, they'll find, if something's wrong, they'll find it. And so I hung up the phone, and my husband looked at me and he says, that's not true. You do feel a lump. And I felt your lump, because I remember one night I said, do you feel this lump? And he said, yeah, I feel a lump there. But to be clear, I've always felt lumps in my breasts because I had dense breast tissue, and that's what you feel sometimes. So I didn't really think anything of it. But again, in hindsight, it felt different. It did absolutely feel different than the others. So I picked the phone back up and I said, that's not true. I actually do feel a lump, and I have had some zingers and burning sensations. And they said, oh, okay. So they moved it up by 3 weeks. And I went to go get my mammogram 3 days after my very enormous, wonderful retirement party. So, and that day I was called back to the radiologist, and he said, you have these calcifications, which is normal. Like we're used to seeing calcifications. He says, but it's when we see the groupings of calcifications, that's where we get concerned. And so he wanted to get a biopsy. So I asked them to share it with my friend who is a radiologist. He's a breast radiologist, and he was actually at my retirement party a few days prior. But he wasn't working that day. So they sent him the results, and he called me later that night and said, what I'm seeing here is that there is an associated mass. You do have groupings of calcifications, and it's a 95% chance or more that it is breast cancer. So I knew on that day that I was looking at breast cancer. So I went in on that Friday, got the biopsy, and he actually called me 24 hours later when I was camping and told me that I had breast cancer.
One thing I want to cover here is you were very, very on these appointments. There are a lot of women out there who know what they should do. They know it's not the greatest thing in the world to do. It's uncomfortable for a very, very short period of time, and we're talking seconds, but there are still a lot of women who will not go and have their mammograms.
Right, right. So to be clear, one of the reasons I started my podcast is because I am a staunch advocate for making sure to get women to get their breasts checked. And I'm not just talking about, oh, I'll wait until I'm 40. No, they have found that the breast cancer diagnoses women are getting younger and younger. Okay, I have interviewed so many women who were in their late 20s, early 30s, and into their early 40s who have gotten breast cancer. So, I understand it. When I was in my late 20s and all the way through my 30s, I was not thinking about breast cancer at all. Like, it wasn't even on my radar. And so I get that. And I want people to put it on their radar, and to put it on their radar now. And because Test Those Breasts was actually named with the understanding that early detection is key. It's where it's at. It is the best way that people are going to move through breast cancer more safely and quickly and actually survive. So I was stage 2. So what concerns me is that because I'm so on top of my breast health, is that the year before, and I'm talking a little less than a year, because they let me get my mammogram less than a year prior because I had, or less than a year later because I felt a lump. They will move it up usually. Is that breast cancer may have been there the last time I had gotten my mammogram the year before. And they said that it was pretty aggressive. It was a 5-centimeter tumor. So I just want to encourage people to take care of the breast health, like, and start early. And especially if people know what their family history is. Now, to be clear, breast cancer, more people who don't have it in their family get breast cancer. And I'm going to repeat that. Just because you don't have it in your family or that you don't know of anyone in your family does not mean that you are safe from getting breast cancer. More people get breast cancer than that don't have it in their family. I do not have it in my family. Okay, so going in and making sure that you advocate for yourself, feel your breasts, know your body, self-breast exams. I've been doing these videos on TikTok and Instagram with tips on certain things like testing your breasts yourself, making sure, and I'm not saying just feel it on the first. Know your body, okay? So like if you feel any abnormal lumps, if you feel one on one side, feel on the other side to see if the same thing is there. If it's not, you need to go get that checked. You need to visually see what's on your breasts. If you have any kind of discoloration, if you have an inverted nipple, if you have discharge coming out your nipple, any indentations somewhere that you've never seen before, get them checked and use your voice, because some providers will be like, oh, it's just your hormones, la la la. No, if your intuition is telling you that something is not right, you need to let them know that you want to get your breast checked and use your voice, advocate for yourself.
I mean, one thing I want to cover with you, Jamie, is why do people get breast cancer? We can look at a wide range of people, and I've read articles, I've listened to podcasts. You often get people who are incredibly healthy, they exercise, they don't smoke, they have a healthy diet, they're ticking all the boxes of all the things they should do, and they still get breast cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got, if you smoke, if you have a lot of or high alcohol intake, that could increase your chance of breast cancer. What causes breast cancer? Do we know? Is there anything concrete, or are we still groping around in the dark, as I would say?
It's so interesting. I interviewed a gal recently that we talked about just this. And I said, when I got breast cancer, somebody actually reached out to me. People say the darndest things when you get breast cancer. One of the things that they said to me was, Jamie, oh my God, what? You were so healthy. And it really confused me, because I thought, well, I am healthy. Like, I was at a great weight. I ate really, really well, very healthy. I did not drink a lot of alcohol. That doesn't mean to say I did drink a lot of alcohol when I was younger, but I exercised. In all intents and purposes, I was healthy. And so it really confused me as well. And then I had another gal reach out to me late at night when I was first diagnosed, and said, and I had done a weight loss program called Optavia. And it worked really well for me, and I loved it, and I still love it. I lost 33 pounds. And this gal reached out to me and sent me a little Facebook message thing, like at 10:30 at night, and said, hey babe, I'm really sorry what you're going through. My sister has a friend of a friend who did that Optavia program. She lost a bunch of weight, and then she all of a sudden got this really aggressive breast cancer. That stuff has a lot of soy in it. I just wanted to tell you. And that's all she said to me, insinuating that I gave it to myself because I ate some soy. And we know that soy is not the issue for breast cancer. It was really a myth. It was not a well-researched enough. People is saying, oh, don't eat soy, so everybody stopped eating soy. Well, that turns out to be hogwash. So We don't know, Sheila. Yes, I will say that there is a school of thought that people should not be drinking. There is a school of thought that people should be plant-based eating. There is a school of thought that stress and trauma lead to cancers. What I do know is that I was so confused that I reached out to a therapist named Eddie Enever in Australia, because one night before I started my chemo, I was really, really in a dark place, and I was mentally not okay. And I knew that I needed to change something so that I could get through this journey, this treatment. So I reached out to him and I said, Eddie, I said, my name is Jamie Vaughn. I told him my story and I said, I've read some of your things. I've watched some of your videos, and they really resonate with me. He is a nutritionist. He is really well versed on supplements and mental health and things like that. And he's a 3-time cancer survivor. And he figured out why he was getting not breast cancer, but he had, I think he had testicular cancer. He was trying to figure out why he kept getting it so much. And he finally realized that he wasn't taking care of his mind. He wasn't taking care of his holistic self. He was focusing on the treatments and this cancer that was in him, right? And trying to, get better and get rid of this cancer when he wasn't really focusing on what was he eating? How was he feeding his mind? Was he, exercising? What was he doing for himself mentally? And so he reached out to me, and he is the one who drugged me out of this hole and helped me with nutrition and helped me with mental health and stuff like that. I told him, I said, Eddie, people have been telling me that I ate soy, or was I not healthy or something? And he said, the fact is that healthy people can get cancer too. I mean, have you noticed how many unhealthy people out there live until they're like 80 and 90? It's weird because I see all these healthy people getting these cancers. Now, that's not to say don't stay healthy, because you need to stay healthy. He said that any stress and trauma can lead to being open to being struck with breast cancer or any kind of cancer. And I had my mother die October of 2019, which threw me into a world of just stress and trauma and grieving and all the things. So I had started to really go down a path that was really difficult for me. And then the pandemic hit, and that was difficult. I had to balance a relationship with my dad. One of my best friends decided to dump our friendship because of politics. Let's see, my husband's stepfather died Christmas of 2020 in the hospital with COVID. Then his biological father died 9 months later. We had a lot of stress and trauma in our lives. And for me, I truly believe that left me open to be struck with cancer. So while we don't know specifically what causes it, we do know that environmental, issues lead to that, whether, mental environment, physical environment. I know that eating processed foods is not good for you. I know eating sugar, refined sugar, will one of those things eventually cause cancer? We don't know. We don't know.
I mean, that really is so fascinating what you're saying about stress and trauma, the effect it has on the body, because the body is incredibly good at repairing itself. However, we need to give the body time and the conditions to do that. I always say something as simple as the common cold. Do not fill yourself up with tablets and medicine and go into the office and try and carry on as normal. Give yourself 3 days to rest. And if you give your body time to rest, you will, recover a lot quicker. And, just giving your body that time. It makes sense to me that if you are putting your body, your physical health, and particularly your mental health under a lot of stress, how that can have an effect on your body. Now, this is really interesting because I didn't really know what I expected you to say in respect of what causes breast cancer. But you are the only person that has ever said that you believe it was caused through the amount of stress and trauma you were going through in your life.
And the thing is that I'm not a doctor. I have an intuition that is pretty profound, and I always have. I've always listened to my body. I know when I'm stressed, and I know when I need to slow down. I know when I need to fill my mind with, and I'm not going to say positivity because I'm one of those people. It's like, don't tell me to be positive when I'm struggling right now, right? I think that as human beings, at least in the United States, this is what I know. We don't value emotions. We don't value allowing ourselves to move through emotions that are needed to be moved through. People are in this state of, you got to stay positive, stay positive. If you stay positive, God will make it all right, or whatever it is. So you almost feel guilty when you feel not positive and your God is not going to help you, or it's going to lead to something bad because you're not staying positive. We need to stop that, and we need to honor mental health. We need to stop what Eddie Eniver would have said, this business of busyness. We always validate ourselves or feel like we're being validated by others by how productive we are, how busy we are. And when somebody has asked me who I was before breast cancer, I was in the business of busyness. I had a million things going on, Sheila. I was a teacher. I had a side business. I had a side job. I am a stepmom of 3. They're all grown and everything, but we had a lot of social things going on. I'm a dog mom. I mean, I just had a million things. And I really, really try now not to have a million things going on because it's too much. It's too overwhelming. And we don't get enough sleep. We think about things at night that we shouldn't be thinking about. We don't have time to go to yoga or to take a run or a walk or play or whatever it is to take care of our minds and our hearts and our just physical being. My life has changed so much as far as that goes because of breast cancer. Is it a silver lining? I think so. I think that these kinds of diagnoses and journeys really push us into way different perspective. I think you become more aware of your surroundings. You become more aware of the boundaries that you need to create with certain people in your life, what you're eating, how much you're drinking. I barely drink anymore. I mean, I'll have a glass of wine here and there. It's very rare. And that was just not me before breast cancer.
Jamie, I'm still trying to percolate what you have said about the body reacting to stress and trauma may be the cause of breast cancer. And as you say, if we are under stress, we're not sleeping properly, we're not resting, we're probably not eating, we're trying to do a million things. That's putting a lot of stress on the body. So to me, I can totally see that. But I have never, ever heard anyone ever say that. I've never read that. but to me, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So what Eddie Enever said, the therapist in Australia, and I actually interviewed him. So anybody who wants to listen to Test Those Breasts with Eddie Enever, it's an excellent, excellent conversation. He said, we don't know of one thing that causes cancer. Of course, I speak breast cancer because that's what I had. So I always say breast cancer, but a myriad of things in our lives, sort of what he said was sort of creates this perfect storm, if you will, to leave us open for being struck with cancer. So stress and trauma, I know personally, that was part of my life in the last 4.5 years. And it had been, 3.5 at that point since my mom died. And mind you, I was incredibly close to my mother. It really rocked my soul. It's so indescribable to people who have never lost someone like that. And I really had to find my way, and I had to carry all of my dad's grief. There was a lot of grief, and just watching these changes in my dad, and seeing some of these things that popped out that I had never seen before, and that put a lot of weight on my shoulders. I had a really difficult time getting through that. I have a very loving husband. He was very supportive, and he's just wonderful. I don't even know what I would have done without him, and then to watch him go through the loss of his fathers was incredibly heartbreaking. So we lost 3 major pillars in our lives within a 1.5 years of each other. So that was part of my story. But again, there are lots of people out there who say, this, and this causes cancer, or, we know that this, and this. We know that there are certain things that are probably not good for you and probably can lead to illnesses such as cancer. I'm not a doctor. I just know my own story. I have heard other people talk about stress and trauma. Eddie talks about stress and trauma. I just think that as human beings, we need to be more aware of our surroundings and be more aware of our bodies, be aware of what our genetics are, and do some research. Now, that being said, is that because we don't know for sure what caused my cancer, what I do know is that I was educated enough to know that I needed to get a mammogram every single year, and I needed to be aware of my breast health. And so I always have touched my breasts and have noticed certain things, right? That's just me. What we do know is that early detection is where it's at. So no matter what, because we don't want people going around with their lives going, oh my God, I'm going to get cancer. Oh my God, I ate chocolate. I ate sugar. I'm stressed. I'm going to get cancer. We don't want people to do that. That just stresses people out even more. So what we do know is that early detection for these things is where it's at. Hence the reason I started Test Those Breasts. The name is all about early detection. And my target audience, I don't sell anything. I'm an educator. Okay. So I started a nonprofit, and I'm waiting for the status to come in. And what I envision is housing all kinds of resources, stories, my podcast, of course, but also a fund for people in need, people who have been diagnosed and need some money. But I say that my target audience for the podcast are people who've never been diagnosed. Why? Because I knew a lot. I wish I would have known more when I got diagnosed, because it's an overwhelming diagnosis, and there's just so much information. And I really had to learn how to advocate for myself even more than I already had. I needed to learn how to tell my doctor that I was going to get a second opinion and not feel bad about it. I needed to learn how to tell my husband that I wasn't going to get the breast surgery that I was going in that direction here in Reno. I wasn't going to go get implants because I didn't want implants. I was going to go to New Orleans, Louisiana instead and get this other kind of surgery that they use your own tissue from your body. I had to advocate for myself with him because he got angry when I made that decision. And then I finally had to tell him, this is my body. This is not your body. This is my body. I'm not dumping any health care providers here in Reno, which he accused me of doing. And I said, regardless of what you think, I get to do with what I want to do with my body. And I've done enough research that I'm not going to a back alley butcher to get my breast chopped off by someone I don't know, or I haven't done the research. And he finally came around and he says that it's the best decision I could have made. But my point is that I had to find my voice, and I have a pretty big voice. I always have, but I had to find that voice even more to get through the treatments. And so I want people to know who have never been diagnosed that it is up to you to really learn about this, learn about the breast cancer, be aware of the signs, understand what's going to happen when you are diagnosed. I wish I would have known what was going to happen when I heard those words so that I could make some decisions and not feel so overwhelmed. That's my mission. To other breast cancer patients, I learn something from them every single day, every time I interview them. But some of the stuff that we're talking about, we're sort of preaching to the choir, right? People have never been diagnosed. They need to hear all of this before it happens.
I have no idea how it must feel when you are told, okay, we've done the test, we've looked, you have breast cancer. I should imagine everything just shuts down and you just don't know which way is up. I cannot begin to understand how you must feel in that moment. But I think there is no such thing as too much information. And the fact that you, as a woman who has gone through this, and breast cancer happens to men as well, yes,
Yep.
The majority is women, but it does happen to men. Getting that information and getting that confidence to say, okay, I've got to make some decisions, and they are life-changing decisions. And the fact that you have a podcast, as a breast cancer survivor, you're telling your story. You are having conversations with all these professionals. There is so much information, and that is a great thing. What you're doing is absolutely phenomenal. The fact that you have the strength, having gone through this, that you want to help other men and other women in the future who may be in this decision, and we hope not many women will. Mm-hmm. We hope it becomes less and less and less, but you are giving them the information. And yes, you're in America. It could be slightly different to where I am in Spain, different in the UK, Canada, wherever. Different things in different countries, but it's education.
Here's the other thing, Sheila, is that, okay, so here in the United States, and I think it's in the UK as well, but 1 in 8 women get breast cancer. Now, we got to think about this, okay? We all have 8 friends, right? 1 in 8 of those people, statistically, is going to get breast cancer. Now, I do know, and I'm trying to reach out to the person, that there's some sort of vaccine that targets HER2 positive breast cancer. I don't know if it's HER2 positive and negative. I can't remember. I had HER2 positive. That there's a vaccine that has been in clinical trials that they're trying to get the FDA to approve. So we do have really good research and clinical trials out there. That's another thing is that God forbid anybody get it. Okay, so hopefully you go through your life and you don't get it. Great. But in the event that you do, you want to know where those clinical trials are. You want to know you want to know enough about your diagnosis. You want to know, do I need chemo? How do I find out whether I need chemotherapy or not? How do I know if I need radiation or not? How do I know what kind of surgeries there are out there? What if I want to be a previvor? Like, what if I find out that this is in my family and I want to take steps to make sure I don't get breast cancer? I have quite a few friends we call previvors, and they go and they get mastectomies and reconstruction or stay flat or whatever they decide to do. And I've interviewed a few of those as well. What if you learn all this stuff about breast cancer and you never get it, but you have all this information and your best friend gets it? I mean, it's a win-win situation educating yourself. It just is. Because I've had, quite a few friends who've had breast cancer. And, in a sense, I remember thinking to myself, yeah, I'll probably get it someday. Or, they've found lumps and one day it's going to be, malignant. And, but at the same time, I thought to myself, oh, breast cancer is what happens to other people. I mean, this is what a lot of people think. I mean, it's not that they think about that maliciously or anything. It's just that it's not on their radar, really.
I think one of the most valuable things you have said is know your body, and not just for your breast, just your general bodily health.
Yes.
If something, that's just not quite right, I'll keep an eye on that, this type of thing. Know your body for absolutely everything, I think, is key.
Well, and I think one of the most valuable things that you said was go in and get checked. It's just a quick, it's not, I know you're getting your boobs smashed, and know whether you have dense breast tissue, but just go in. It's once a year you're going in. It's worth it. I was stage 2. If I was stage 3 or 4, that would have been a different story for me. Don't wait.
The thing is to know your body, and particularly we are talking here about breast cancer, do those self-checks at home. You're getting in the shower once a day, twice a day, 3 times a day. And it's not just the breasts, it's up to the neck, the collarbone, round the arm.
Lymph nodes in your armpits.
Exactly. There are so many fantastic websites, YouTube videos showing you how to do those checks. And yes, it is something we need to put in our diary. And, a great thing I heard is put it in the diary for your birthday. So whatever day, that day you've got to check yourself.
October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And October, it's interesting. My birthday is October 16th. October has always been one of my very, very favorite months, not just because of my birthday, but because of the fall season that we have over here. And it was my mom's favorite month. She loved the fall. I think it was her favorite season. And then she died in October. So when she died in October, I'm like, really, Mom? Why do you have to die in October? Like, it's our favorite month. It's my birthday. You die. And now I have breast cancer. And so October is just kind of one of those months. So I always got them in October, but I now get them I don't have to get them anymore because of my type of surgery I had, but I started getting them in June because of COVID, because I had to push it off. So it ended up in June instead.
Jamie, let's talk about the future of your podcast. So you're interviewing different medical professionals, you're talking to other women who are going through breast cancer. Mm-hmm. What is the future of your podcast?
Oh, gosh, Sheila, first of all, this podcast has been my healing mechanism. Like when people say, oh, you should write a book. I'm like, no, I don't want to write a book. I decided that podcasting was really important for me because I really like talking. So talking with people and learning more. So it's been a real healing mechanism. I launched it last June. It's been almost 1 year. And that was the 1 year anniversary of my diagnosis. It is taking on sort of a life of its own. It's really wonderful. I applied for the nonprofit because First of all, my podcast is all self-funded. You know probably what that's like. We pay for our platforms and we pay for, just lots of different things to keep it going. And I don't want it to end. So someone had suggested that I do a nonprofit, but I wanted to take that a step further, and I wanted to be able to house, I'm having a website built. It's going to be testtosebreasts.org, and it's almost done. And it's going to have a page for free resources for anyone, whether it be a caregiver, a best friend, you're just diagnosed, and you can learn more about insurance, because insurance is one of the things that is so confusing. And we want to make sure that people understand what the terms mean and what it means to be denied for a claim and how you can appeal that denial. We want people to know what to take to their surgery and what to have at home. We want people to know how to find out whether you need chemo or not. We just want people to know as many things as possible for free. I will not be taking any money whatsoever from any breast cancer patient. My vision is to have a fund each month to be able to gift to someone. There will be an application process, and I will have a panel of people who will make those decisions of who it goes to, whether it be for something for you need to get a wig, or you need to travel to here to get your breast surgery, or you need to pay your mortgage, or whatever it is. And so that is my vision. And all at the same time, Sheila, try not to get too busy.
Jamie, thank you so much for this conversation. Your story and how you're helping other people. I mean, really, ladies, know your body, not just your breasts, but know your body, so that, if something isn't right, get in touch with your medical professional. Better to be safe than sorry. Absolutely.
Yeah. And Sheila, I do want to let people know too, that I'm so open for people to send me an email or find me on Facebook or Instagram. I'm on Test Those Breasts. I've had people reach out to me from other parts of the world asking me questions, things like that. So I am super open to that. Breast cancer is the sisterhood of all sisterhoods. And it is just amazing how many people I've met who have helped me. And so I am open to that. So just letting people know, I don't care where you are in the world, just reach out.
Oh, that's brilliant. So we'll make sure all the links go with the podcast so that people can get in touch with you. Jamie, thank you so much for your time and for all that good common sense information. So test those breasts, ladies. We cannot say it enough. Yeah, let's hope that the numbers of women being diagnosed is going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. And you'll start a podcast about something else.
That'd be good. Thank you, Sheila, so much for having me.
You're very welcome. So thank you for listening to that conversation. And I hope you took something from it as well, because it is such an important topic. So yes, do test those breasts. So please subscribe for future episodes. It is free. And if you have a story to tell, please contact me on the allaboutyoupodcast@yahoo.com. And let's tell your story.